There have already been 7 school shootings in America in 2023, including several on college campuses, and that's just over 2 months into the year. And yet, one state has decided that they are now going to make it easier to bring guns onto college campuses.
The clock is ticking before the Campus Self-Defense Act goes into effect. The bill signed into law by West Virginia Governor Jim Justice Wednesday allows concealed carry permit holders on public colleges and universities to carry their firearms on campus. There are some exceptions where colleges can regulate firearms, including sporting events, on-campus daycare, and inside a student's dorm room.
I guess you can't bring your concealed carry into daycare. I guess that's one silver lining of that legislation. West Virginia's Republican government looked around at all the gun violence in this country, and in their state, they rank 14th in the nation in firearm deaths per capita. They decided the problem is not enough guns on campus. Now, someone like you or I might hear about this and think, that sounds like a bad idea, and I think it's bad policy. It's a bad decision. But it's the choice of the Republican officials who were elected by West Virginia voters who vote overwhelmingly for Republican legislators and statewide office holders. The people of West Virginia chose those representatives, and now they get to make the laws that govern that state. It's not like, Chuck Schumer and a bunch of Democrats from other states, right, can swoop in and rule that West Virginia is not allowed to make that law. That's not the case for the nearly 700,000 residents of our nation's capital, the majority of whom, I should note, are people of color. Those Americans do not get to determine their own future based on democratic principles of self-representation. For example, back in November, the D.C. Council voted unanimously to pass a sweeping overhaul of its criminal code. The legislation would do a lot of things: get rid of most mandatory minimum sentences. It would allow for jury trials in more cases. It would bring down the maximum penalties for several offenses, including burglaries. It faced opposition, including from the mayor of D.C., but earlier this year, the council voted to override the mayor's veto, okay? The council elected by the citizens of Washington, D.C. And that should have been that, except, that's not how it works in D.C. It's how it works everywhere else, how it works in West Virginia, but not in the District of Columbia, which is not a state and does not have the full democratic autonomy that all the other states do. In D.C., Congress has the power to just sweep in and overturn the law. And guess what? That's exactly what the Republican-controlled House voted to do last month. And now, with the help of a handful of Democratic senators, including Joe Manchin of West Virginia, the Senate is poised to do the same. Joe Manchin and a majority of the United States Senate are going to tell the residents of the District of Columbia, who, of course, are the ones who will experience the effects of this law, what is safest for them. They don't get to tell West Virginia that you probably shouldn't put a lot of guns on campus. That doesn't work both in directions. Now, most people assumed that President Joe Biden, who has been a vocal supporter of home rule and self-determination of the District of Columbia, would veto this if it passes. But no. In a surprising and disappointing twist, yesterday, the president announced that while he, quote, supports D.C. statehood and home rule, he does not support some of the changes D.C. Council put forward. And if the Senate votes to overturn what D.C. Council did, I'll sign it. Oh, really? I guess Joe Biden knows best what would be safest there. Biden's decision reportedly blindsided members of the Congressional Black Caucus, including D.C.'s non-voting delegate to Congress, Eleanor Holmes Norton. She told reporters, quote, "This is news to me, and I'm very disappointed." And she has every right to be disappointed and angry, along with her 700,000 constituents, because in our nation's capital, the will of the people does not always prevail.